Okay, so for cellular IP able to be able to address the issue of updates, location updates for data roaming, this particular diagram shows how that happens, right? We have a general global internet for mobile phones. Therefore, mobile IP is the mechanism that is used to ensure or to facilitate data roaming. But if there is high speed or there is high mobility, for instance, if a mobile phone is moving from one location network to another in a plane, then we will have to manage the location. We'll have to manage how the different addressing is done for the different mobile devices using the cellular IP. And this is basically just a picture that shows you how cellular IP works. All right, we have a wireless connection where we have a gateway. Gateway works the same way as a router, right? And then we have another particular network. So each of these networks will have its own gateway, right? Can you see these are gateway? These are gateway. Each of them will have its own gateway and or even a router, okay? And the global system for communication that basically manages how addressing is done is the mobile IP, or how data roaming occurs is the mobile IP. Yeah, but because there can be high mobility, then cellular IP will work as an overall. It will work as an overall mechanism to ensure that if there is global mobility, as you can see here, if there is global mobility and there is a high speed of mobility from one location to another, then cellular IP is the one that will govern that. Okay. You see, in cellular IP, how does it work? First of all, in cellular IP, we know that in mobile IP, each mobile phone or mobile device is identified by an IP address for network connectivity, right? But in a cellular IP, because we are assuming that these devices are going to be changing location at a very fast interval. So the nodes or the devices, nodes are devices in a network that share data or share resources. So the nodes know, none of the nodes know the exact location of a mobile host. The packets addressed to a mobile host are routed to its current base station on a hop-by-hop basis, where each node only needs to know on which of its outgoing paths to forward packets. This limited routing information, also known as mapping, is local to the node and does not assume that nodes have any knowledge of a wireless network topology. So mapping is basically a technique that is used for cellular IP to manage data roaming when mobile devices are moving from one location to another at a fast interval. So cellular IP uses the mechanism called mapping. And basically, mapping assumes that all the mobile devices that are communicating do not know or recognize the IP addresses of the others. Why? Because it will be inconvenient because they are changing from one location or from one network to another. So there will be an assumption, a safe, workable assumption that all the others are unknown. So whenever a data packet has to be sent to another from one mobile host to another mobile host, then at that particular time, when that particular packet is being sent, is when the phone or the destination of where the packets are going is going to be mapped or looked for. All right, but you see in mobile IP, each of the mobile hosts have a unique IP address. You know, a unique IP address, okay? Because you don't expect that IP address to change because the network does not change so much. But where there is movement, a lot of movement, as I gave you an example of an aeroplane that is moving from one region to another, you realize that you are moving from one network to another. Yeah, so cellular IP will use this implementation of addressing called mapping, where one, there will be a workable assumption done that all the IP addresses of all mobile hosts are unknown until a data packet has to be traced to a destination. So when a data packet has to be traced to a destination, that is when now an IP address is going to be located. Okay. Yeah. So it's called mapping. And now, cellular IP uses two mapping mechanisms. So there are two mapping mechanisms where we have paging of cache and routing of cache. The first thing you have to know is what is a cache memory. A cache memory is basically like a dynamic RAM. It is like a dynamic RAM. It is a high-speed kind of RAM that works as an alternative in a RAM. If some of you did computer organization and architecture, there was a topic called memory organization and hierarchy, and you discussed the hierarchy of no, you didn't do computer organization and architecture, so I better just tell you. So there's what we call memory hierarchy. Memory hierarchy is basically a pyramid that shows the different kinds of memories in a computer system in the von Neumann architecture. Yeah, in the normal architecture of our computer, it's called the von Neumann architecture. Yeah, or the von Neumann model. Different kinds of not pieces, but memories. Okay, so a cache basically falls second from up, second from top. So we have registers, cache memories. We have the RAM, and then we have auxiliary memories like magnetic tapes, magnetic disks, optical disks, such kind of things. Why are they arranged that way? Basically to show the speed at which the CPU can access them and the amount of the capacity, the amount of storage space that each occupies. So the ones that are top in the pyramid in the memory organization, like registers and cache, they are high-speed memories, meaning that the CPU can access their contents faster than it can access the RAM. So that is the cache memory. So the cache memory works like a dynamic RAM as an alternative to the RAM, especially when the RAM is taking too long to load open programs or running programs. So there are two mapping techniques. I was just giving you that introduction to cache memory. So there are two mapping techniques: paging of cache and routing of cache memory. Paging of cache, it basically maintains mapping for stationary hosts, and mapping entries in paging cache have timeout intervals in seconds or minutes. So paging cache is where it keeps a memory of the IP addresses of stationary hosts, stationary mobile phones. Stationary is not that they are not moving. Stationary is that they are moving, but they are not changing network. Okay, it's like they are just in one place. Okay, they could be moving, but they are basically in one network. Okay, so paging cache, basically this keeps a memory, fast memory, which can be accessed fast by the telecommunication devices. A memory of the IP addresses of those devices that do not change network from time to time. All right. And then routing cache, it maintains a memory of all the IP addresses of all the mobile hosts that are currently receiving data or expecting to receive data. And basically routing cache works especially with those mobile devices that are in constant mobility from one network to another. So if we have devices that are moving that are moving at high speed but do not change network, okay, they are still in the same region, then we will use a mapping technique called paging. But where the devices are changing location and therefore IP addresses have to be updated every time, it uses what we call routing. Okay, so basically we can just look at how this happens. So look at cellular IP paging and routing, but of course I'm not going to ask you this particular diagram. All right, I'm not going to ask you this particular, I'm just going to ask you the concepts. Okay, the concepts. So, but for the purpose of your understanding, you can look at this diagram here. Paging and routing. Paging keeps the addresses of mobile phones or mobile hosts that do not change network. Routing keeps or maps the addresses of mobile hosts that change location or change network. Okay, so you can see that there is these numbers just indicate direction of communication. So this mobile phone to the network, from the network to another mobile phone to a network, from a network to another mobile phone. Right? And can you see there are different locations? So that mobile phone will be in different locations at given times or at intervals of time. So at time T1, it is at this point, location 1. At time T2 is at location 2. At time T2, can you see this is the same mobile phone? Yeah? At time T1, it's at location 1. At time T2 is location 2. At time T3, it's at location 3. So basically, we will use this particular mapping techniques, paging and routing, to manage how data roaming will continue to happen as there is constant mobility. Okay, so while idle at location 1, if at location 1 this mobile phone is idle, meaning that it is not data roaming, it's not sending and receiving data, the mobile host or the mobile device, your mobile phone, it keeps paging cache up to date by transmitting dummy packets at low frequency. Okay, so if it is not sending user packets, then it sends dummy packets. These dummy packets are just to keep the network recognizing it, that it is a potential device for data roaming. So it keeps sending dummy packets. Dummy packets are not packets that have a destination. Dummy packets that are packets that have no destination. They are just sent to the network for the network device. If it's a router or a gateway, all right? If it's a router or a gateway, to basically just know that that device is active, all right, and it can change location. So the mobile phone keeps sending dummy packets just for the router or the gateway to know that that particular device is active and it can change location. All right. Then, if we assume that the host is mobile, meaning that it's now changing location, yeah, from location 1 to location 2, we assume that the host is mobile and moves to location 2 without loss of data, then paging cache mapping for X now points to location 2. So if, of course, what that means is that if location changes from one point to another, then of course paging will have to update, right? It will have to update the IP address of the mobile device in its new location. Okay, so basically what we are talking about is just that cellular IP just allows, devices that have constant or fast mobility to be, especially where there is change of location, all right, to actually be managed. That is basically the point. Okay, to actually be managed, all right, and therefore this kind of management, it normally maps the location on what we call a hop by hop basis. Okay, a hop by hop basis is that you are hopping from one location to another. You hop from one location to another. Okay, so as you keep changing location, as you keep changing location, then you are basically hopping, or you are basically moving, right? Your IP addresses have to be changed. Okay, your IP addresses have to be changed, because that IP address has to be unique to the location or the network you've just entered into. Okay, so basically that is what cellular IP is about. So actually that brings us to the end of the end. We have covered 74 pages of our course, and that brings us to the end of our syllabus. So I will expect you to take time to revise. I will expect you to take time and learn the things that we have just gone through. And it is better if you are in class, because in class, that is where I've made the notes easier. Right? In class, my work in class is to make the notes easier for you to understand. My work in class is not to read for you the notes, it's to make the notes come alive so that you can actually picture it in your brain, you can internalize it. So I've been doing that in class, and all classes and all my videos are there as a witness that I have done all the explaining that needed to be done. I've clarified all the clarification that needed to be done from the notes. I have completely followed the notes to take you through, meaning that you should be comfortable with those notes. Otherwise, it will be different for someone else who has never been in class to actually understand everything in the notes. It might be difficult. Why? Because it is my role and responsibility to make the notes easier for you. All right. Otherwise, if it was just about the notes, I would give you the notes and that's it, which is not responsible. It is irresponsible. But we have gone through every bit in our notes explaining. I have done a lot of work in explaining, and you'll see that in all the videos. I have explained what needs to be explained. I have left out what needs to be left out. All right. So if you follow the video, you'll see the important parts of the notes that I've been explaining. And those are the basic things that are going to be tested. All right. So basically, that is it for our units. I uploaded assignment 1 and assignment 2 on Saturday, and those who visit the site from time to time should have seen that. The deadline is elapsing, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to extend the deadline, allow you to do the assignments and the cuts. The assignment 1, assignment 2, and cut 2. Allow you to do the assignment and the cuts, and therefore so that next week, even as you take time to revise, I'll be taking time to mark the cuts, and you'll be able to see your results, your cuts, and your assignments. Okay, all cuts and all assignments are being done in the portal, so no work should be sent to my email. Okay, I've given all those instructions in the portal. Under every assignment, under every cut, I've given the instructions very clearly that the work should be done exclusively within the portal. No work will be received outside. Okay, why? Because in the portal, I'm able to actually assess better who did and who did not do. Okay, and it also helps me to grade better. Okay, so all these will be done in the portal. So you will see the assignment 2, assignment 1, and cut 2. They are in the portal. Do them. The deadlines are marked. Look at the deadlines. As I've said, I'm going to increase the deadline for like 3 days so that you can actually do and complete the work. At the end of that deadline, basically the assignments and the cut will be inaccessible because I'm restricted. So at the end of the deadline set, the assignments cut will be restricted. It will be inaccessible. It is already restricted. It will be inaccessible. So ensure that you follow the deadlines. If you don't follow the deadlines, I'll not be able to mark, and you will also be able to do, because after the deadline, the work will be inaccessible from your end. Okay. So that is it. That brings us to the end of the unit. I want to thank you all for being in class for the time that we've been in class, listening in. For those who have asked questions at some point, and also for those who have been really silent, I hope that you've been learning. I know there are different kinds of students. There are those who talk and those who don't. But I very well know, because having been a student myself, I know that you might be quiet, but you're actually understanding the things I'm saying. And others might be quiet and they are not understanding, and therefore it is appropriate to ask questions. So for those who have been asking questions here and there, and some who have been reaching out to me, thank you. It shows that you are active. You have been interested in the class. Probably that needs to be my assumption, because of course I've seen your engagement also on a personal level concerning the unit. And those who have been attending classes faithfully, then that is for your benefit. All right, it is for your benefit. So it will behove you to now begin to revise. Begin revising. The exams start in 17th, so you have a lot of time to revise. Is it a lot of time? No, it's actually 10 days. So 10 days to revise. Take your time to revise. I'm finishing all my syllabuses even tomorrow for object-oriented system analysis and design. I'm going to finish it tomorrow so that you can have your time to revise. Okay. So that brings us to the end of this unit. Thank you all. Any question, any clarification that you need me to make? Any clarification that you need me to make? Okay, so if there's no clarification you need me to make, then that means you're okay. So inform the rest that they need to pay their school fees so that they can be able to access the portal, so that they can be able to do the cuts, because the cuts and the assignments are in the portal. Okay, and I don't want to receive work outside it, which might be inconsistent from my end, because you know what happens with emails. Emails are full of data. Emails are full of messages and all that. So instead of working with the email for assignments, I may even not know that you ever sent, because I might view it and pass. So it is important that you do it from the portal. I'm very well able to access everything and know who did and who did not from the portal. And the portal, also the system allows us to know who did and who did not, including your statistics, what time you visited. So those kinds of details are very important to track student behavior in the system. So do all that cut and all those assignments in the portal. Okay. So that brings us to the end of this. Have yourselves a good time. You will find that I've stretched the deadline a little bit so that you can find time to also complete that work, right? The assignment 1, the assignment 2, and cut 2. Also, I'm going to upload all the notes, right? I'm going to upload all the notes for your benefit and for your reading, okay? And also all the videos shall be on YouTube before the end of the day. Okay, so have yourselves a good day.